SportsTissueBox.com.
SportsTissueBox.com.
Get your SportsTissueBox.com.
Football season is here, and what better way to commemorate the season than to grab your sports tissue box now at sportstissueboxes.com. Whether you're celebrating the thrill of victory or agony defeat, sports tissue boxes are there for both young and old. Grab your sports tissue box now at sportstissueboxes.com.
Call them, baby, the Mets are here.
Right here for you.
Regain your financial freedom by grabbing the book 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, an Amazon bestseller written by none other than Dr. Boyce Watkins. Grab the book now. Also heating up summer 2023, B1 the movie, starring Dr. Claude Anderson, Madam President, and Riza Islam. Atlanta, Georgia, get ready. The All-Black National Convention is coming your way October 2023. We had the privilege of attending an All-Black National Convention. It was an absolutely life-changing experience. To get a free Dr. Boyce Watkins Black Business School training on how to make money without working, text the word STOCK to 31996.
Welcome to another episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. I'm your brother, Old Guy from Hip Hop News Uncensored, and sitting across from me is my co-host.
What up, y'all? It's your man, Sam, and Viral Hip Hop News. Like my cousin said, man, you're in the building for a very special edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. We got a special guest in the building, R&B Queen. I'm excited for this one, Old Guy. We got Lil Mo on the podcast. How you doing today, family?
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, happy to have you on. Definitely excited for this one. I was telling my cousin, Old Guy, man, I remember a couple years back, I was with an R&B group, and we were performing out in Queens at the Blackthorn 51, and I believe you were the headliner for that. And I haven't heard about you in a while and seen you ever at a show. And when you went out there, I was like, God damn, it's 2001 all over again. She ain't missed a beat. And from there, man, I've just been following you and been paying attention to your life and stuff. So very happy to have you on. You got Broken Heart out now, the single. So before we get into all that, how you feeling out here entering 2021, new spirit and everything? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Today's weather was nice. It seems like spring is in the air. It's up. Yeah. It's stuck.
Word.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let's go. That's how's everything been since, last year COVID hit very strong for everybody. How's it been for you since then? How have you made adjustments with your lifestyle since then?
Well, of course, COVID affected everyone in the music business and around the world. No one was able to tour and no one was able to do basically anything. The world was shut down. So it gave everyone a chance to master reset. And I honestly feel that
You still hear us?
yeah, my son just walked in because his karate kid he must have did a karate flip and messed it all up. So let me just start all over again.
You good?
COVID affected everyone. The whole world was shut down. Like what we thought was going to be 2 weeks turned to 2 months, 2 months turned to 6 months, 6 months turned to a year. So it wasn't just affecting me; it affected the whole world. So I realized with that gave me the perfect time and opportunity to figure out what I wanted to do, rebrand, restructure, like restart, reset, reboot everything in regards to me, Little Mo, and like that's why I couldn't wait for 2021. No matter what 2020 bought, 2021 I was just like, it has to be up. Once outside opens back up, like there was no excuse for me to like still be stagnant or still to be on a hiatus.
Now you got into a game when the game was a little different than it is now. You got a lot of artists independent doing their thing independently, and it's great to see people getting out of the stronghold of the music industry. But you were in the industry knee deep and seeing a lot of the things that were going on. So how's the perspective different going independent now as it was opposed to early on in your career?
Well, independent now honestly is great only because like with social media, which we didn't really have back then, you had a PR team and a PR and promotion team and stuff like that. So you had your interviews, you had your Word Up, your Right On magazines, your Hair magazines. And honestly, it was very limited for Black artists to really get showcased unless you went crossover hit radio or if you had a major hit back then. That's when you could get on the major TV shows. Well, TV has turned into the telephone. So everybody is just on their digital platforms and just like you can literally put your album on here, load it up and put it out there and then work it that way. So I would say as far as indie artists, as long as you have your business and your stuff together, this is the greatest time for any artist to come out because it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to push yourself. That's all a machine is going to do anyway, is just put all this money into something, and then they're going to tell you that you didn't make it back. Now you get to see where all your money is going and how much is coming in. That's the honestly the best thing that could have happened to the music industry, especially Black music.
Indeed.
Talk about it now. I'm gonna go back a little bit and kind of go back to your humble beginnings. I heard you kind of talking about that you grew up in a military family.
Yeah.
So how did that, growing up in a strict household like that kind of mold you into Little Mo, today?
One thing that it did with me being an ex-military brat, because my dad has since retired, it at an early age, we moved from New York to Texas. So at first I was like, we're going to leave our friends. But then I remember just traveling the world, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia. My dad got stationed overseas. So we were out without our dad for months at a time where he would have to, go to different parts of the world. Then we moved to North Carolina. We was in Fort Bragg, but I went to school in Fayetteville. So it opened me up to that. But then that's where I would say the birth of Little Mo came when I was 15 years old, because at that time I got to tour my uncle John P. Key. My dad was away, or he would take me on the weekends, drop me off on that Friday. We would tour on the weekend. He would pick me up that Sunday night, and then I would go to school during the week. Then to Maryland. Then I went back to New York, and now I'm back and forth between Maryland. I was in Philly. I was all over the world. So it taught me how to just not get stuck in one place. But it also taught me discipline and structure as far as being on time. Because one thing I know my dad told me about the military, and I think that's where I get my OCD from, is like cleanliness and being on time. Like that is very imperative. Like they are very strict on that. So that's something I know that it helped me honestly in the long run. Because I used to hate being the artist that was like, why am I always on time? Why is everybody else late? They was like, trust me, that'll benefit you in the long run, because time is more valuable, honestly, than money. Money you can make back. You can't get time back. You feel me?
Absolutely. Talk about your first hit and your first break into the game. Was it Missy Elliott that found you? How did you get into the game at Lil Mo?
Yeah. Not only touring with my uncle, but with Missy, when she put me on Hot Boys, and like I was working with a lot of her artists prior to Hot Boys coming out, because she had the Gold Mine Records, which is under Elektra. So I was writing and stuff. So hooking up with Missy honestly allowed me to drop out of hair school and literally tour the world. So once we did Hot Boys, it was up from there. She introduced me to like everybody. Like we was around everybody from Mary J. Blige to Jay-Z, Whitney Houston, everybody that was somebody, from the end of the 90s on over to the 2000s. Like she had me around, and I was glad that she trusted me enough for not only my punctuality, but my respect level. I wasn't around there acting like I already knew them. That's the big difference, is like when somebody brings you into their domain, which you're not used to, you just got to respect that. You lay low, you don't be all hype like a lot of people now. You ever see an artist and you see them, you be like, dang, well, where's the artist? I see them, but where's the artist at? So I always knew that she was introducing me to a bigger picture, so I always respected that. So like, yeah, once Hot Boys dropped, it was up, and that's where I honestly got my big break in hip hop and R&B.
Gosh.
I'm curious, before you even got started with that, who were some of the people that you looked up to, whether it be R&B, or hip hop, female artists, male artists, before you got in the game?
Oh God, almost everybody. I used to love Guy, Jodeci,
yeah,
Blackstreet, Mary J. Blige, Faith Evans, SWV, Escape, like everybody that came before me. I was like, I want to get famous because I want them to be my friends. And then eventually it happened. So, before me, there were them. They blazed the trails, and they set the tone so I could walk, in their footprints. Like I just always felt like, yeah, if it wasn't for them, there would be no me. And then there were people before them, like the Shirley Murdochs, and like the Stephanie Mills, the Patti LaBelle's, Gladys Knight. That's where I learned tone and structure and really like finding my sound. Whitney Houston, rest in peace to her. It's just so many, and not in no particular order. But at the end of the day, a lot of people that came before me, I respect them. And I always was just like, dang, when I got a chance to meet them, I was like, I said this would happen. So now I'm just speaking everything into existence.
I think that when you came in around 2001 and where R&B was at, you had the R&B groups out there that were killing it, both female and male. You had a lot of single R&B artists, but you as a female really stood out and did your thing because you were almost like not Mary J, but like that street and hip hop soul. Like you brought it there, and you still got bangers that playing in the club today. But then it seemed like it was a little dip off for a little while with R&B. And I've said it recently. I feel like female R&B is kicking male R&B's ass right now with all the talented female artists out here doing their thing. What do you think female R&B is at R&B in general as a whole, as it stands in 2021?
I think music has changed anyway, wholeheartedly. Like the sound that came out before me is not around no more. Like you don't have to do 38 background vocals or, all your leads over and over and over again. Technology has evolved. Music has evolved. So trying to find that same sound will be virtually and honestly impossible. But that feel, that soul, that's still there. So the subject matter that we sang about back then, we're singing about now. It's just you could be more aggressive with it. So I would say I honestly attest that to a lot of women jumping out there because we weren't allowed to say a lot of things back then. They told me when I did Superwoman that it was too cocky, too headstrong, and they didn't want to scare the consumer. When I came out, I had braids and tattoos, so I didn't look like your typical R&B artist. I looked like a rapper. So it's just like breaking down those walls. It took some time. But now when I see these new artists, they look like me. I'm just like, yo, that's crazy to see the braids come back, to see the makeup, to see the look, to see the mannerisms, the tattoos, the expression. Honestly, the way that everyone gets to express themselves now is what we've been fighting for since the early 2000s. But now the doors are open. And that's why I just think that women are just killing it and rocking it. And I think that's the only difference. Of course, sounds have changed. And I know that a lot of people are sampling as we did, are sampling from the old stuff. Like I hear, I've cleared Can't Let You Go and so many other my songs. I'm just like, hey, people keep on using that.
Yeah.
It is when music changes, like every 10 years, every 5 to 10 years now, that sound changes. But one thing, if your voice like stands out, that's what everybody will keep on carrying on the generation on in. So yeah, like I just think that everything is where it needs to be. Now keeping it there, dude, that's another mountain we'll climb when we get there.
Yeah, let's talk about Ja, because you guys have made so much magic over the years. I mean, really responsible for birthing a whole different sound that everybody emulated, with the hip hop and the R&B, mixing it together. When did you meet him, and how did you guys, what point did you guys know you had a great chemistry together?
We met back in like 99, I believe. The Romeo Must Die soundtrack, or was that 2000? Whatever Romeo Must Die soundtrack came out, like I was around Irving them due to the fact that they were over the soundtrack, and I actually had first did a song with an artist named Dave Bing. So when we were at that video shoot for Somebody's Gonna Die Tonight in Queens, Irv took me on a tour bus and was just like, yo, I got my artist Ja, and I want you to get on this song. They play I Cry for Me.
Okay.
And they were like, they thought that I could bring that song to life. So we wound up doing that. The album came out. Then we did Put It On Me. But that chemistry came from them just like, yo, I think you could bring these records to life, because a lot of the stuff was already done or out. But once we got a chance to re-record everything and do it over, it just gave it a whole new set of legs. And we got to run around the world for years, still to this day, with them songs.
Are you guys good now? And obviously, you dealt with the drama you dealt with back in the day, but that's been a long time now. How are you guys now?
No, we real cool. Like, one thing is, I realized now it was never personal. It was always business. So what happened back then was just miscommunication. And honestly, me not handling my business. I can't point the finger at no one else. Everybody else did their job. I wasn't on my job. But we rectified that. We got that taken care of. And so it was just like, you realize we're like, they didn't even really do nothing to me. And I ain't have nothing to do with nothing else that they was going through. So you just get to the point where you're like, life is too short to just be mad at somebody or be beefing with somebody over something that's just takes for your admin calling in and saying, hey, we need to switch this. Boom. It didn't take, but all of that was for hype back in the day, which was cool. But at the end of the day, now it's costing people their lives. So that's why I'm just like, I'm real meticulous and I'm really cognizant of what I do and what I say now, because people are so emotional and they're like sensitive. Like you say something about somebody now, they'd be like, pop out, pull up. Back then said it was just like, you got a show coming up. So people be like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? But it's just, it was never really that serious. It was just miscommunication that we handle. We've done so many shows and tours since then. Like we did a show like literally right before COVID, and it was crazy. It was like me, Ja, Ashanti. It was a couple of other acts, but like still to have that same effect when them songs come on, like you just can't beat that with a bat.
Now I got a question. Were you around when the Ja Rule and 50 Cent stuff was going on? And if you were, what was your perspective from a female, point of view at that time?
Yeah, I was around because I'm honestly cool with both. Like I knew 50 before I knew everybody in the industry. Honestly, before I met Missy, I believe, because of like our family ties. Like I have family in Queens, so we were working right before I remember before he got shot. So it was just like that. Whatever they had going on had nothing to do with me. So it's just like I was just so cool with everybody from everybody's camp. I was always associated with people, but I was never signed to anyone. So what they had going on had nothing to do with my relation with nobody. That's why to this day, like whenever I call or I need something or somebody want me to sing or something, they can still call me because I'm neutral in all of it. Yeah, I don't honestly to this day, I don't know what it's about. It's none of my business, and I leave it alone. One thing I've learned as a woman is you don't get in grown man's business. If it ain't got nothing to do with you, leave that over there. Because a lot of people were joining in, and there was a time where I had input because I didn't know what was going on. I was just going off of what people were saying. It's just like, nah, that's men's business. That's between them, and that's how we carry it.
Indeed. I was saying in the beginning of the interview how once we did the performance out in Blackthorn and I seen you, I was like, wow, I want to start following her again and seeing what's going on. I start following you on IG and following your career again. Everything seemed dope and great. And then you started sharing and exposing what was going on behind the scenes, and it shocked the shit out of me because I had just watched you put on IG. You was on vacation and everything looked great, but behind the scenes, it was very different. And I give you credit because if you're not in your immediate circle, outside looking in, you couldn't tell about anything that was going on. But can you kind of share that a little bit about what was going on behind the scenes during your life at that time?
Well, it was a lot going on. And one thing I've learned that with social media, whatever you put out there, you can ask people to mind their business. But once it's out there, it is honestly the world's business. It's up to you to respond to it or just let it go away. But I noticed what was going on in my life. It wasn't going away. It was actually getting worse. So there were a lot of things that were piling up that I would try to post a pretty picture or some fun things going on. But at the end of the day, when them lights go off and them cameras is down, shit got real.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot from when I first got into the industry. Let's just put it on the table. Like everybody knows you're introduced to a lot of things. And it's not by one particular person. It is what it is. It's just like when you're in high school, everybody be smoking in the bathroom, everybody be doing it. So you're just like, oh, okay, I just want to be cool too. Like I'm with all of this. Right. So it just became a lot of things became at my disposal. Like all I had to do was get it. He was there. But then, things after you do things for a certain amount of time, whether it be anything you're addicted to, whether it be niggas, whether it be drugs, whether it be drinking, whether it just be hanging out, when it becomes a habit, that's when it becomes a problem. And at first, when things were going on, I didn't see the problem because I was like, well, everyone else is doing it. But then when you come to your senses, you realize, well, you're not everyone else. Even from the beginning, you was never like everyone else. Even though you was around it and you was associated with it, you was never like everyone else. So with that, it's just like when I saw it, and honestly, with my manager now, when he had me, because I had went through a whole purge, and for the past 2 years, it's been a purge for I would say honestly for 20 years of foolishness. Some people saw, some people heard, some people don't know, but things that I was dealing with, and I was just like, I can't continue to move forward and sing these songs but live a lie. And I said the other day, I had so many people lying to me and I was dying in it when I would wish that I would have listened to those who were trying to tell me the truth so I can live. But then when you face reality and you come to the truth that you was just like, yo, this is fucked up. Like, this is not right. This is not how I was raised. And this is not what I want my children to become. And this is not what I want them to see. Like, everybody has their issues. And we all have that time in life where we mature and we touch the hot stove just to see if it's still hot. Will we tamper and we do things? But when it gets out of hand, you have to be adult enough to know, and you have to take full accountability to be like, I indulged in it, I allowed it, and I have to take accountability for it. And since I took accountability for my opioid addiction, for my marriage addiction, and been divorced 3 times, like I took account for that. I'm not hiding from that. I'm not putting my L's on nobody else. Now, what happened behind the scenes, so you'll see a smile on social media, but nobody knows that I was missing patches of hair, or that I was losing weight, or looking crazy, or popping pills just to start my day. So it's just like, I realized once I started speaking out and speaking up, I was drawing more people that way, rather than telling people, you don't know what the fuck you talking about. And they could tell, they know, bitch, use popping perks because I know who sells them to you. You feel me?
Yeah.
So I just had to live in my truth. And that's what I expect nothing less from myself now than to be truthful about everything that I did.
Right now, obviously, it's a pandemic when you talk about Percocets, and you were mentioning you were in Philadelphia and Philly, all other cities. But at what point for the audience did you hit rock bottom? Where you like, you know what, I got to turn around. I gotta, I know you talked about you almost OD one time as well, but
yeah, that shit is real. Like
yeah,
a lot of people, I think that anybody who's ever done pills or even like people think OD means that, okay, like there's certain things that you can overdose. There's been times I've drank too much alcohol and my blood alcohol level was so high that like you can literally shut down your liver and your whole system could shut down. So you're sitting there with IVs because you're so dehydrated, your body, like there were times my levels were so low. Let's just start there.
Mhm.
My levels were so low. I was driving home one day and I literally had enough strength because my hands had locked up to pull over the side of the road. And that's when iPhones had just started where you can touch screen. And I was able to call 911 and I had them call my dad. And I was just like, please don't let me die like this. So that was pre-Philadelphia.
Okay.
That was something I would say never came out because I was just like, you know what? I stopped doing that. I stopped drinking energy drinks, popping pills, drinking liquor the night before partying and just living reckless. So I stopped. But then you go through battles of depression and stuff that you're going through because I never got a handle on like what is really going on. I thought I could handle it. I was thinking, oh, I'm fine. Like I could still sing and hit my notes, but mentally and emotionally, I just wasn't there. So I was living one way and acting another, and it was just a conflict within my spirit. So then stopped for a while, started doing reality TV, radio, dipping in other forms of entertainment, but I still wasn't happy. So I just felt that my only escape would be through opioids. So we would start out as a half, turn to a whole, turn to 2, turn to 3, turn to mixing stuff up and be like, oh, you got to try this codeine, promethazine, all of that. Like, and for my posture, for my size, the doctors still be like, how did you ingest this? I was like, I guess I'm a strong individual, but I was fighting demons and I was trying to suppress them this way. So the rock bottom came in is when I knew that I felt like I couldn't function without it.
Okay.
And I do remember one day I took a pill and I was like, this joint ain't do nothing. So the whole day I'm going on thinking like nothing's going on. All of a sudden, like I could hear my heart beating. And I was like, wait, this don't feel right. And then I started shaking. I was like, oh my God, if I die, this is not the way I want to go. Like this isn't right. And then I called my peoples and I was just like, yo, I think y'all sold me a bad pill. They was like, yo, I think that joint was crazy too. I was like, I don't think that was that was either E or that was a bomb or it was like something else that was not no Percocet because that's not the way you're supposed to feel like you're going to die. Like you can literally feel your soul leaving your body and you're begging God, please don't let me die like this, not with my kids, uncared for, nothing. So my rock bottom was when I realized not only was my marriage declining, but my soul was dying. And it just got to a point where I was just like, nah, I can't live like this because when I was accepting the abuse to the point where it's one thing it happened behind your back. You be like, oh, okay, I could deal with this. But when people are comfortable enough to do that in front of their children, that's where my rock bottom was. But that's where I had to draw the line. And so then I had to plan my way of escape. and just realize, how can I move forward from this? Because nobody deserves this, especially when you're the breadwinner and you're the one that, you're the one who have to drive us, make the home run.
Right.
You feel me?
Appreciate you sharing that. You also talked about the abusive side of what was going on in your life. And I kind of want to compare it to what we see out here now, because we're seeing so many headlines going on and there's just sides divided. Black men and black women are divided. You got one that now you guys are lying. You got one side saying now all you guys ain't shit. And it's so crazy. And we talk about a number of situations that's going on, but we weren't in none of them motherfuckers. So we're to speculate. We have no idea.
Yeah.
Being a woman that dealt with the situation like that and seeing what's going on, how from a woman's perspective, how do you feel about all that? And how do you feel about the divide that we see when talked about, when abuse is brought up and things of sexual misconduct, let's just put it like that, is brought up?
Well, when it's brought up, I realized that if certain things will happen to me, I'm not the only one. I won't be the first and I won't be the last. There are situations that I see, and then I see there are some people's characters that are being attacked, and I've never picked that up from them, nor have I ever seen it. So there's some things that are capped and clout chase, but then there's some things that I can feel in people's spirit. I'd be like, something is wrong. I can look at certain people that I know and I'm just like, dang, she posting up all this stuff, but I know for a fact that she's getting her head knocked off between the washer and dryer. So she just has to act like nothing's going on. But there are a lot of people who would rather be under abuser because they're the breadwinner. I'm not that one. I'm sorry, but I've dealt with it so long. I know how to identify it. One thing about certain abuse, from sexual to physical to emotional to financial, is identifiable. There are signs. So I see a lot of people like, they guilty. I'm just like, no, you don't point the finger and don't judge, because somebody's allowing something. So I could say the first time I was abused, I allowed it because I was just like, oh, dang, you automatically think, what did I do? But then when it continues and you just like, wait, I ain't do nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to ride and hold it down. Like, it's just like, okay, this is where I come in and I speak up, and then I bring, that helps other people be strong enough to talk about it. And like my mother always told me, you just never know what people are going home to or what they're dealing with. So it's best that you mind your business. But when they say, hey, help, people breathe on the thing and write help.
Yeah.
Don't just be like, nah, bitch, you wait. No, help. There are so many people that are crying out for help, but we overlook it because we're like, oh, they got money. That's just rich people problems. I'm going to stay out the way. And a lot of things are blamed on CTE or, trauma, PTSD. It's time to stop pointing and blaming pointing the blame and putting it on illnesses and actually deal with the mental health. Everyone needs to get evaluated before they get in a relationship, period. For real. I learned that. I learned that in that marriage boot camp house, because things that you think you're hiding, they see everything. There was cameras everywhere. And even if there wasn't cameras, there was microphones. If there wasn't microphones, there was mannerism. There was a mannerism. Like, they are specifically trained to tell what is going on. So even though I was like, nah, they was like, you could tell us because we already know.
Can I ask you this real quick? Because Dr. Dre's going through what he's going through in the divorce. We've talked about that often from a male perspective, saying that 2.1 million is absolutely insane. Yeah. But people that have dealt with Dr. Dre, you've heard stories. We've heard you hear actually say things on interviews and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think about that? Is that justified coming from a woman's perspective? God knows what she was going through. We say it's crazy as men not knowing what was going on. But what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on it is, and always will be, I've heard women say this, but I've never seen it. So it's just like, I know that everybody can't be lying, but it's like, what you allow will continue. So you have to speak up and speak out, and you have to stand firm. You can't be afraid of, oh, they gonna call the big goons on me and da-da-da-da. No, you just have to know that once you go after certain people, oh, they coming. So I met Dr. Dre and he was cool with me, but the women who are in relationship with him say otherwise. So it would behoove me as a woman to be like, well, because of this is what they said, I shouldn't don't ever get no relationship with him. You already, people don't just change. And I don't know what actually happens behind closed doors, but I've heard some pretty traumatic stories, none of which I've personally experienced or saw, but I know some people say they have survived. So with that, I'm just like, wow. I always seem to attract those type of people. That's why we wrote Broken Heart, because I attract the most broken people. And it's a lot of women who get strength from me. So I can tell what some people have been going through, but I let them tell their story and I let them tell their testimony. Because a lot of abusers, they behind it, but I know some people that be whooping bitches' asses in front of everybody. And I know some women that be punching niggas in their face in front of everybody. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
It's real out here. And I know with the pandemic, I read statistics. My daughter is studying psychology, honor psychology in college. So I read the transcripts. I be typing up some of her stuff for her, and I read the statistics. Domestic violence from 2019 till now in the African American community and suicide has skyrocketed past 60%.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic and everything. So
we have the highest numbers right now.
yeah. So in your opinion, why do you think people stay in these type of relationships? You know, when people are abusive, like is it psychosis that goes back, you know, to childhood? Can you
I can say for me, because I never saw that growing up. My father I never heard my mother or father curse. I've never seen them fight. I've seen them have disagreements, but it was certain things they just never did in front of us. So I was like, why did I accept it? That's not what I grew up around. It's just like when you when you leave the nest, you are really in the real world. So everybody used to call us, oh, y'all are fake ass family. Like, whose mother and father's really still married? So I used to wonder that, like, yeah, nobody else really has a mom and dad. Like, growing up, I was one of the only ones that had a mom and dad. My parents just celebrated 46 years of marriage.
God bless.
See that? So I was searching and seeking for things that I saw. So I would accept the first thing I saw because it seemed like it was the right thing to do. Growing up in a Christian household, get married, have children, live happily ever after.
Yeah.
But because I didn't realize, oh, this person might be dealing with trauma from their childhood, I didn't investigate that enough. I would just always think like, oh man, they so cool. It seems like they could rock with my vibe and they know how to run around the world with me. So it's cool. No, that's not cool. And it was a pattern that I kept on doing and dealing with, not realizing, no, that's a form of mental illness. You're just attracting post-traumatic stress and you're causing stress and trauma to you, and you'll pass it on to your kids. So that's why I had to cut that. So a lot of people don't investigate or do background checks or even try to find out. They just think somebody cute or they got they got good hair or that's my type, but not knowing really what's on that inside. Because there's some pretty people that got some ugly soul. There's some handsome men that are demons.
I'm gonna ask you about a few years ago. You caught a lot of slack from saying something about R. Kelly. I'm not gonna quote you, but can you talk about that? I'm sorry.
What did I say? I be forgetting, child.
I think you was more so. A lot of people kind of thought you was kind of defending not what he did, but like that people coming out against him. How do you feel about R. Kelly? I know you think you know him personally. How do you feel about, you know, then and now what's going on with R. Kelly?
I never met him a day in my life.
Okay.
All his albums, his songwriting is hands down probably some of the best we've ever heard in the world.
Facts.
But from people that I know that have been around him, like everybody knows that he has certain issues. And a lot of people knew that he was making a lot of money. So I think a lot of his issues were suppressed for the simple fact that, you know, he was the breadwinner and he was throwing people a bag. I don't know personally what happened, but I know that there were people around. I'm just like, well, y'all was there too. So why nobody ain't say nothing? So when his ship is sinking, a lot of people was getting a raft and like, well, I don't want nothing to do with it. But to me, if you was around it and you accepted it and allowed it, I always felt people was in on it. So I just always felt, and what I think I said, which I don't remember, I was just like, well, if they're gonna call him out, there's so many more people that they need to call out. But look what's happening. Like, don't just go after him, go after all of them. If you're gonna pick out, don't just use one as the role, as the okay, You're the example. It's so much stuff that goes on in the industry behind the scenes. Like, whoo, he's not the only one. And I don't condone anything that they said he did. The sad part is that I know for a fact he wasn't the only one over there with the child. That's sad.
Yeah.
So we hear those stories and we hear those hard stories when it comes to particularly the youth, especially within the game, whether it be male,
Like,
female, male, whatever.
behave, that shit is a different type of demon. That's why
And
I'm just like, whoo.
we hear stories kind of attributing that to the Illuminati and rituals. We all can kind of go deep down that rabbit hole and give reasonings as to why. I've had those conversations seem like somebody once a week. Is that kind of true within the industry? Is some real kind of other kind of spirits kind of handling that game? How real does that get?
Child, it's real. All I gotta say is that if you ain't got nobody praying for you or you don't pray for yourself, do not get into the industry. Because you know what I've learned? They say Satan don't have the red horns and the pitchfork like people think. He presents himself honestly. If you look back before he was banished from heaven, Lucifer was the most beautiful angel of them all. So it always presents itself as beauty. I'll leave it there.
Let's talk about Broken Heart.
Yes.
Broken Heart out now. I've heard it a few times now, about 10 times. I love the song. It's called Broken Heart, but it's more about healing. And you were talking about writing it for women that are going through things. So get a people a little synopsis on why you wrote the song, the process behind it, and what they can expect on it.
Well, Broken Heart was actually written by my manager and business partner, Wu. And he was literally the one that had to pull me out of the hell I was going through, because I know I was strong enough. I had my family, but for someone to say, no, like, you really have to get yourself together, and I want you to detox, and I want you to withdraw yourself from society, as well as I can see what you're doing to yourself, and I don't want you to die like that. So he was like, you got to get yourself together, and it's time that you start speaking your truth. So I was like, what should I do? Write a book? I was like, nah, now it's time to start singing about that stuff, because you can save a whole generation, and you could bring these young girls in, and you could save them from making the same mistakes that you did. I was like, well, this generation don't listen. Listen, I got an 18-year-old, and I'd be like, well, where you going? Like, it is what it is. He'd be like, well, did you listen? And I was like, no. It was just like, but you listened to someone. So with that, when we were constructing the whole Savage Heart album, we actually recorded Broken Heart on my birthday of 2020. So the song has been written, but I wanted it to be right. So I recorded on my birthday, because I felt like the only way that I could sing about my pain was once I was past it. I don't like those records for me trying to sing when I'm hurt, because I never wanted my voice to project that. I always felt my voice was healing, as prophesied to me as a child, and that I always had that voice that made you just feel like I can make it. Like I thought I had that kind of power and strength. So I never wanted a song to sound sad or like, just like anti. So when we did the record, and like just the whole things, I was thinking that everything that I had went through was so bad, and like, oh my God, woe is me. But when you think about what you've gone through, and somebody's going off worse than you, no matter what financial level, what spiritual level, which status level they're on, we can look back at when Vanessa Bryant lost Kobe, how the whole world was shocked and everybody was hurt. But just imagine, she got to live with that. She lost her husband, her daughter, the same day. And it's just like, so I'm thinking I'm going through something. It's like, well, God, you literally have to go to God and be like, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah.
When we saw Lauren lose Nipsey, he leaves the house, and her expectations are for him to come back to her and their children. He leaves to go handle business. He never makes it back home. Well, God, what did she do to deserve that? Rest in peace to Lyric Young Chanel, young lady who just passed from, what was it? She had a brain cancer.
Right.
And I saw something, and it just broke my heart. Well, her mom was like, I would do anything to have her comb my baby hairs again. Well, God, what did she do to for her? Like, so the way you change the narrative is like, Mo, it's not just you walking around that's broken. It's not just you that was in an abusive marriage. It's not just you that lost it and got it back. There are people that are losing stuff daily. To lose a loved one is worse than losing money. To lose a child is worse than losing a car or anything materialistic. So when you get to the point where you just like, well, where can I go to fix this? Because hurt people, and I don't want to be that hurt and broken anymore. You have to find out that the greatest love that you'll ever find literally is within yourself. So no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with, you have to muster up enough strength to be like, God wouldn't bring you to it if he wasn't going to bring you through it. And I'm not trying to preach or be deep, but you literally have to get in your mind. The mind is very powerful. You really have to push through your pain. Like, half the stuff that happened to me, we don't even have the time to discuss. Like, I'll give people what I want them to know, but when I have to look at my phone and look at what I used to deal with, like, I had wanted to give up on life. Suicidal thoughts, drug addiction, everything. I accepted that. But at the end of the day, I love myself enough to know that even though my heart is broken, it can be fixed. And it all starts with loving myself and just changing the way I think and the way I see things. It ain't always about me. It ain't always about you, Mo. Sometimes you got to think outside of that. I have these children. I have a wonderful family. I have everything that I've ever wanted. So it's just like, that's where you fix your broken heart. You gotta love yourself so much more than you trust or love anybody else. And you gotta want whatever it is more than anybody want to give it to you.
Indeed.
You definitely appreciate it. Definitely truly an inspiration to make it through all the stuff you made through, to still be standing here today. I know it's going to help somebody, you know what I mean? So that's all I got, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, indeed. That kind of left me for something. Thank you for sharing that, little Mo, on a Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Y'all go ahead and hit that 5-star rating, hit that like button. Had a great interview thus far. Man, we're going to conclude right there, man. So appreciative of what you just shared with us the last 40 minutes. Give the people right now where they could find you, social media handles, and one more time, where they can find Broken Heart.
I'm on every social media platform that is. The main one I'm on is Instagram, but everything is at The Lil Mo Show. TheLilMoShow. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse, Trilla, whatever's coming, Snapchat, TikTok, everything that's coming out. We're like configuring it so I can have my my handle be at The Lil Mo Show. And you could click the link in all of my bios, but my single Broken Heart is available on all streaming platforms. Matter of fact, I got the list because people was like, I don't see it on iTunes. I was like, it's on there. And I'd be so hype about my little list. Let me tell you everything that's on right quick so you could get into it.
Yeah, let us know.
Amazon, Ngami, Apple Music, MediaNet, Boomplay, Deezer, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Claro Musica, iTunes, KKBox, NetEase, Pandora, Savin, Shazam, Spotify, Tencent, Tidal, TikTok, Resso, Trilla, and Soundtrack by Twitch. And if it ain't on there, that means the damn app or the damn streaming site don't exist.
Ain't no goddamn excuse. Go check out Broken Heart right now. Streaming platforms. You heard? Hey, Lil Mo, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your strength to go through what you went through and share it so candidly with our audience, man. Thank you so much. Best of luck to you. More than welcome anytime. Lil Mo on the podcast. Salute. Take care.
Be blessed.